Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to try out the changes that I did for the panel amount parameter. So this will now correctly remove the faces from the smallest to the largest panel islands. And if you use the invert panel amount, it will get rid of the uh, invert of that, which is starting from the largest to the smallest island. So let's try and test it out. And use random symbols to initially um, show us the result. Okay, base cut 3, and increase the, not the base cut, the resolution, and something like 24. And we have the panel margin, increase the panel margin. And then we're going to increase this to something like 5, the panel minimum value, and maximum. You can see that the strips of faces are getting longer. So if we use panel amount of 100%, you can see the small dots right there. Okay, so something like 30. Okay, so by default, with the invert toggle off, or invert panel amount off, if we, this will remove the islands from the smallest islands first. So it's now, the behavior is now correct. So from before, it does start from the smallest islands, but there's bits of the larger islands on the sorted direction, which is starting from the small. And now it's correct. The behavior is now correct, and you get rid of the really small faces. So if that, it's something that show up once you, for example, increase the resolution, you can just simply modify, press shift and then click on the panel amount bar and then drag slowly. Pressing shift will slow down the increment. There you go. But if things are really slow, you can just manually input the value. So let's try reducing the smoothing repetition and then increasing the panel margin. There you go. There's no more of those small dots unless you want these effects. So we got it cleaned out at 61%. Okay, so this behavior is also adapted in random panels and random loop extrude. So let's try it on those operators. And random panels, let's go to maze and increase the cuts to something like 24, and then increase the margin. So this is just to demonstrate the, or to show the behavior much better, and to of course copy the result we're getting from the random symbols operator. Okay, you can see the small dots, and we're going to start getting rid of those. So to get rid of the faces, so those faces are still there, you can see. Those faces are still there, but not extruded. To get rid of them, you have to toggle on this 3 dots right here, remove panels, to remove them. Okay, let's go to solid, and you can see that. So we're aiming to just remove these single face islands. Just slowly, there. There's one left. There we go. So now we have our maze. So let's walk our maze. Where you just need to close. If you're aiming for a maze using this operator, then you can just manually close the other entrances after the operation. This is the resulting topology. It's is quads. Okay, so this is also in random loop extrude. Let's just get this back to the run default result or preset. Okay, so let's start with 3 loops using the ratio of 80 and increase the resolution. Something like 24 because this is just a single phase. And let's try just one loop object just to, of course, see if the new behavior is working. So we have the toggle right here underneath the loop ratio. We have the invert toggle here, and you can invert it for the invert or not invert it for the each of the loop objects. So right now we're going to invert it for the um, loop object number 1. But with this off, you can see that it will get rid of the smaller islands first. Wait. Not wait. So there's still something wrong with the. It's supposed to get rid of the. So you can see there's still something wrong with this. But the idea is for that to work on here. So it's not working properly yet. Might have missed something in the script. So inverting. Okay. Well, it's probably just the loop object. So let's try it in number 2. Increase the resolution. Invert it. No, it's not. Not reacting the way I want it to be. But the idea is, of course, to have it react the way it did for random panels and random symbols. And this is so if, for example, we're using tree loop objects. Let's just set 1, just using subdivision level 1, and that's loop object number 2. So we can invert it, and it gives us this. So small islands, just small islands for the loop object number 2. Increase the resolution for it, yes. So it gives you quite a different result now, and you have additional effects once you have the update. And also let's invert it for loop number 1. Okay, just loop number 2. Increase loop loop 3 subdivision. Let's decrease this and increase the panel size of loop object number 3. Okay, so you have big islands first for loop object number 1, small islands, big islands for loop object number 1, 3, and small islands for loop object number 2. This where is our global seed. This is our global seed. So let's try it on a cube object or a crate. Automator X, Y, Z. Let's put in some random topology just to drive the result of the randomization. And then random loop extrude. Probably not use 23. I'll try and watch that. So set it back to 12. And it's gonna be okay. 12 is probably too big for this. So we're just gonna wait. Um it's processing. So that amount of phase with subdivision level 12 and then using it for like tree loop objects. There you go. So we have this amount of detail. So we're not aiming for this. So let's set it back to 1 and start from here. Okay. So this is the result of our settings here with loop objects 1, 2, 3, with loop object 1, 3 having big islands and loop object number 2 only having smaller islands. Let's try and get rid of the split in the center line using the clip center distance. There we go. And maybe try and increase the panel size for the, there we go, the loop 3 object to have to get more relaxed areas using that loop object, and probably do the same for loop object number 1, just bigger faces, with the small faces being loop object number 2 with our invert toggle. So this is how it's supposed to work. So I'm going to fix the invert ratio once after this video is finished. So it's supposed to work like random panels and random segments. Maybe just a small error. And probably reduce the number 40% only. There we go. Or too much 60. There you go. Just a mix of small shapes and big shapes. And we can lower down the global subdivision here. And you have individual subdivision right here, the loop subdivision. The depth, you can play around with the depth global seed right here, or modify their own depth using this individual depth seed ratio. So the random loop extrude is actually the first operator in the random flow add-on before everything else. So the next one is in existence is random panels. But this is the OG operator right here, random loop extrude. So this looks good. And let's do a quick shading. Just select everything, and since everything is just angular, we're going to just use cube projection and append our material, starting material from random flow, genodes, extras, shading, and append materials. So with everything selected, using creative flow to assign a material from the random flow materials into these multiple objects. So I'm going to use the underscore UV and random panel soft in this case. Okay. So we're still going to modify this because the size of the texture is too much or too small. Let's try and make it bigger. And just to provide some shade variation in the surface of the model. Okay. And then we can put in random vertex color as another layer of shade variation. Okay, so let's change the RGB node into the vertex color that was created using the random vertex color operator. So vertex color, and connect it to where the RGB node was connected. So right here, there's a bit of a problem with the reflection, and it's too much. There we go. And control the vertex color attribute with the overlay color mix node. Factor set to 1, and you can control the intensity using this color B input. There we go. So now we have our model. And do some more adjustments with the texture probably. There we go. So if you're doing like spaceships and something bigger, you need to make the texture smaller by increasing the scale. Okay, so all we need is some dramatic lighting. And also you can decrease the influence of the texture using the shader also right here. And we are going to use the color stop 0, which is the black one. And you can see the effect of the texture essentially being reduced on the surface of the model. So white being no effect at all, or the brighter the color gets, there is no effect. Okay. And then let's introduce some lights. So this is basically what I'm showing you in my videos is not exactly what I want you to do. Okay. I'm just demonstrating how you can use the atom for your own work or workflow. See? So something like 80. So this determines the scale of the lights, and this is the number of the lights. And we're going to, okay, first we're going to increase the size of the outer scale. And then this will be the placement of all those tiny dots inside those big square, not tiny dots, tiny square. And the factor is how many of those big square can exist in the surface of the model. And we can also randomize it. And then we have the inner scale, which is the tiny squares inside the big squares. And to decrease their threshold, you can just decrease the factor, basically decreasing their number as well. An offset you can use to randomize the position on the surface of the model. Let's change the color to something less saturated. And strength is, I think 20 is already okay. 0.04 or 0.03, reducing their number much more. Okay, something like this. So this is the disadvantage of using a shader for the lights. But there's another approach, which is the random cells. Set this to 0. And we're just going to use this loop object right here. I think this is loop object number 3. And using pre-select, Control-Alt-Shift-F to just get the planar surfaces, which is the top faces on each of the angular sides. And then go to render view and viewport, and then go to use the operator. Random cells and emit size 3. So the size of the faces depends on the resolution. So you need to increase the subdivision to basically reduce the reduce the size of the lights. You might have to put a new parameter here as well in the future to filter out the lights based on their sizes, so you don't have to actually go in and delete the ones that you don't like. So just 10, and let's start randomizing from here. Okay. I think this looks good. Just the margin, I think we need to reduce the margin. Okay, full seed, full seed. And we can just start subtracting the lights that we don't like. Okay, selecting the object. In this case, the pre-select add-on can remove the faces using the Control-Shift-F hotkey, but in this case, we're just going to select it, and then invert the selection and get rid of the other faces that we don't want. So we are going to select the ones that we like. Actually, let's go to non-rendered view and set this to random. Okay, select our emit object, and then we're supposed to pick on the, there we go. We're supposed to pick on the mirror side. Actually, let's just do it rendered so we see it better. So we're picking the lights that we like. No, we don't like that. Oh, we can keep that. And let's remove this. So let's not pick it up. And this one. Then after this, go to edit mode. Control I to invert and XF to delete the faces. Then you are left with the lights that you like. Okay. So right now, because this is also geometry and it's also parented to the source mesh, we can actually just move the lights to where we want them. Okay. Something here was removed. So that is the advantage of the random cells light emission technique. Okay. So let's go back to random panels and use this and set this to on. So don't worry about the following this video because you don't have the update yet. The update will be released soon. I'm just slowly showing you what you can do when the update hits. So instead of dropping videos after the update. So I think it's the thickness. And we're going to remove the islands and they leave us with the big islands first. So we have like these tiny details or on the surface of the model, and we're going to control the depth, probably just unify depth, and then control the thickness. Then we're going to actually let's use floater mesh to let it so to avoid them casting shadows or reflections on the actual model, and or the source mesh in this case. Let's try maze. Probably not maze. Maze is really chaotic, as like random walk. Okay, let's try and get rid of most of this. So this just to provide those tertiary detail, and you can see this detail on some sci-fi assets where they have this can either be like booleaned to the mesh or just sticking out. Let's go back to thickness and make the top faces less less small. And again, for the islands that you don't like, you can use pre-select to remove them. So let's start with this. Actually, without floater mesh, so it's basically the same. You know what? We can actually copy the behavior of one of the panel cutter presets using this. So turn on floater mesh, hopefully, and then depth. There we go. Depth is going in, but increase the offset, and we're going to use this. Is it okay? Offset, then reverse the depth. There you go. Do not let it overlap on the surface of the mesh. And you have this. So it kind of looks like it's extruded or inserted into the mesh. There you go. And without the floater mesh toggle, it casts shadows and reflections. So it looks like it's another object. But when you turn on floater mesh, it looks like it's part of the mesh. So this works 100% correct on cycles, and it works, I think, a bit with EV. I haven't really tested it. Yeah, so just a bunch of holes, or is it deboss or embossed? There you go. So if you want to move everything, so we have worked on this was primarily just the cube from the start, so everything was mirrored from there. So just select the cube object, or you can select everything and cursor selected, add an empty, then select all the relevant meshes and parent it to the empty if you don't want to control it using the initial cube. Okay, so that is the uh, new enhanced behavior of the panel amounts parameters in random panels, random symbols, and random loop extrude. Random loop extrude, it acted correctly before this video, but apparently there's something else missing. It's supposed to work like random panels and random symbols, but most of it worked. but not really 100% like the other two operators. So that will be fixed when the update hits. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you have any questions, use the comments section below or the links in the description. Also, referral links in the description. If you buy from those, I get a small amount of the sales without any additional cost to you. Okay, so subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.